we're having to adapt, aren't we, to a change in the paradigm almost, because in the past, and I say in the past because last year, was it last year or the year before when Albon and Lewis Hamilton clashed there, it was the other way around, the person who got the penalty. Yeah. And I understand that the rules have changed, and you have to keep up to date. I don't know. I suppose that's the thing we're struggling to adapt with. I feel that the rules have changed not only from last year, but from ever in motor racing. Because my sense always, and my driver coach when I was driving, obviously I needed one a lot, was a guy called Rob Wilson. And Rob would often say, no one turns in until you turn in. If you're on the inside, no one's turning in. So I'm not saying Rob would say that now, because he wouldn't be suggesting break the rules. But there's kind of laws of physics that to some degree play on. Anyway, I get your point. Yeah. The rules are how they are now.
Yeah, and to be honest, the rules have been like this. Actually, this change of rule by giving space when someone's alongside you has been there. When did Verstappen first win? And when he drove Leclerc off, was that 2019? That was 2018, 2019. That rule was supposed to be there that year, but they couldn't implement it, and it's still been up and down, and they still can't implement it because that rule's supposed to be there. But Alonso was complaining about it in Silverstone. He said, people are just driving people off the road. I thought that wasn't allowed. And it's a very good point. I mean, I watched the racing. I enjoyed people watching as it went. And in our time, we are allowed to drive people off the road, inverted commas. When you're on the inside, you take your line. But they're trying to change that. And in America and Australia and various other different championships, they've had good success in that. But they've had to have rigorous stewarding to make it happen. And I've been on the stewards panel trying to make it happen as well.
So, okay, I don't want to sort of labour this point too much, but it does feel like there's some inconsistency even within the new regime.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and it's again enforcement. So you're right. The first 3 clips were the old style racing, where no penalty for that sort of one. Clip 4, which we saw in Red Bull Ring, where Albon got a penalty for taking Lando off, the 5-second penalty. That's the new way that they're trying to enforce it. But they're not enforcing it consistently in Europe, full stop. They're just not able to do it for some reason. And I think it's because they're not consistent with the driver stewards, not consistent with the stewards that come in. And I don't think they've trained the stewards properly on this. Because you need to have a proper seminar on what you want to try to achieve with your racecraft rules. Because they're able to do it in America, they're able to do it in Australia, and everyone seems to fall in line with that. So, and the difficulty is this. It's a bit like football. I might have brought this up to you before, Matt. In the 90s or the noughties, when they were trying to get people to stop taking each other out in big tackles because they wanted to see the game more flowing, there was a huge period for a few years where they really struggled to implement this. But then the referees got a lot better at saying, no, this is not allowed, and they were much more stricter on what was acceptable, and they were consistent. And then you saw the game change, and then you saw people like Lionel Messi come in, and the other players who came in, which weren't taken out in tackles all the time, but they could dribble around and do something quite pretty. It's the same what we're trying to do here with the regs, is you're trying to let these cars race around side by side, but you have to be really strict with how you enforce it, and you have to be very clear with what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, because the drivers are all getting confused, because one weekend you're allowed to do this, and one weekend you're not allowed to do this, and they just want consistency. Are we allowed to run people off the road? Let us know. If we are, great. And if we're not, you need to be very clear on what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, because it's a new way of driving by not allowing by giving some people space, and it's something that all the sim racers do. Because they're very strict on this about giving people space. And what happens is you see these battles that don't just happen for 1 or 2 corners. You see these battles happen for half a lap. And it's quite interesting because you're basically running in your own groove. But you need to be able to explain it to the driver stewards, who need to be very precise about how they want to do it, because most of the driver stewards are old, like us, who prefer to see them race when we run people off the road. You know what I mean? Sorry, that's a really long answer.
In the good old days.
I hope it's clear.